In this video, I'm going to be revealing my Solana Seeker mobile phone. I bought the first Solana Saga Genesis phone whenever it first launched, and I've had a tremendous experience with it. I remember when it first came out, the Solana Saga was the first crypto-first mobile phone, and one thing I really liked about it was just kind of its sleek build. I liked the finger press to unlock, the biometrics, and the fact that they had this like Solana dApp store, right? And so part of my buying the phone was just about wanting to explore new technologies and be on the cutting edge of technology, because I saw the Solana Saga kind of like the first version of the MacBook, right? Because I understood that crypto was going to go mainstream, but I understood that in order for that to happen, there has to be mobile first environments, because more people spend times on their phones than they do on their desktops. And back in the early 2020s, I think was when Saga first launched, or maybe it was around 2021, there was just desktop applications. And so I knew that someone had to be building a mobile first strategy. And that seems to have kind of borne out. And now you're seeing that a lot of layer one projects like Sui are also thinking about how to have mobile and alternate device first experiences. Someone has even launched an Ethereum based cell phone recently. I saw Sui has their Sui Play, which is like a Game Boy experience, and there's a Solana Game Boy like experience as well. But basically, the crypto applications have to be integrated with the phones, right? And so I just ripped open this box. It was literally just a pull tear. I ordered the Solana Seeker whenever it first came out on pre-launch. I ordered it because the pre-launch was only $500. And one thing I really liked about the Saga is that I got a whole bunch of airdrops for free, a whole bunch of NFTs for free. And I had made so much money just by owning the Saga that I used some of the airdrops that I received to just pre-order the Seeker back in, I think, 2023. It might have been 2024, but I ordered it quite a while ago and have been waiting for the Seeker to come out, and it only cost me $500. I think it's going to be well worth it. As you can see, it comes in this packaging. User experience is very important in all branding now. Seeker comes just like this. All right. So the first thing I notice is that it feels more like a mobile phone compared to the Saga. The Saga was kind of heavy and a bit like a little bit too much in your hand. You could see the Saga kind of takes up a whole bunch of my hand, but as you can see with the Seeker, it's a little bit more appropriately fit. It feels just very high quality, and you can immediately tell the difference in the two. So this is the Saga, this is the Seeker. The camera setup seems different. It seems like, well, I don't know if I see the biometric press part that you have on the Saga on the Seeker, but maybe it's there. We'll just go ahead and just continue to dive in. I like having these phones because they kind of serve as a second device and interface into the Web3 ecosystem. And in the future, I think every mobile phone will kind of almost serve as like the remote control of Web3, because what we're building right now in the Web3 metaverse is, and I use those words interchangeably, is the internet of value, right? And as such, all of the data, the NFTs, the items, the currencies, the interactions, the live streams, all the information that you're creating, all of these things will actually have value associated with it. And so it will be in a transition from Web 2 and the phones that we are used to more Web 3 devices. And you want your Web 3 device to not be your cold storage, but kind of this intermediary storage where you can interact with it, and you will have some money and applications and data and NFTs on it, but ultimately it's not going to be, sort of your main storage of where you put your real wealth, because it's just a little bit too hot in a sense of people are going to have it'll be interfacing with the internet quite often, and that's a threat vector, right? So I assumed that the phone would come charged. It did not. Oh, it did. Powered by Android. Solana Mobile. Seeker. So I'm going to go through the setup process right now. Compared to the Saga, you kind of already noticed that the phone just feels a little bit more high quality. I remember whenever you would interact with the buttons on the Saga, things felt a little laggy, and this seems a little bit better quality in terms of the reactivity of the screen. Honestly, it kind of feels like an iPhone in many ways, and I hate to say that because I don't want to draw comparisons to Apple, but it does feel like that in a good way, because I'm a big fan of the Apple experience. Okay, after you enter in your Wi-Fi password, it's going to say it's getting your phone ready and that it may take a few minutes. So I don't really have a strong feeling about the future of Solana, although I like the experience because whenever Anatoly first came out with Solana, he always talked about blockchain at NASDAQ speed. And what we're seeing right now is the financialization of particular layer ones. Obviously, Bitcoin has been undergoing a financialization process, but recently Ethereum and Tom Lee had through the company Bitwise, I think is what it's called. Maybe it's not Bitwise, it might be Bit something. But essentially, Tom Lee is creating the micro strategy of Ethereum. Then you have Kyle Samani, who is a VC investor based out of Texas, and he is doing the same playbook with Solana, right? Right now, what's happening is people are taking these layer one networks and they are trying to securitize them through corporate structures and have those structures trade on public stock markets such as the New York Stock Exchange, and NASDAQ exchange and all these different exchanges. But I think that is just kind of the step one of everything on Wall Street landing on blockchain networks like Solana, like Ethereum, right? So essentially, first we will bring Ethereum to public markets, and then eventually all public markets will run on networks like Solana and Ethereum. And to me, I don't really care which of these layer ones wins in terms of one being a settlement layer, one being a transaction layer. I don't think for value creation it really makes a difference, because I think that the value accrual will happen primarily at the money currency layer, but also in different pockets of value creation as well. And I think there's kind of room for everyone to essentially thrive and win, i.e. Ethereum, Solana, right? But I do like seeing what Kyle is talking about with Solana and his company that he's launching, which I can't remember the name of it, but essentially he has made representations that he hopes that his company will be one of the first companies that is fully ran on chain. So to me, when a company is ran on chain, what that means is the flows into the money are encoded by smart contracts in terms of how they are dispersed. Also, probably different aspects of the corporate treasury are kept on chain. Also, voting for the corporation is done cryptographically on chain. You could also have the bylaws be encoded through smart contracts. And truthfully, I think the best representation of a company being on chain is Decred, right? And that's something that I've talked about on my first channel, not this channel, but I highly encourage you to check out that channel as well if you're watching this video. But essentially, the point I'm getting at, right, is when Coinbase went public, they started trying to lay the groundwork for being a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, where they have no headquarters, right? And they have no offices, or so they claim, essentially, right? And I think the point of all this is that we are dematerializing corporations through decentralized autonomous organizations. And you're seeing a lot of this play out right now in the United States legislature, in which the Genius Act recently passed, and we are seeing legislation being debated in terms of the Clarity Act. But ultimately, I have argued previously and in writings, I've argued that the who shall be in charge of sort of regulating the digital asset space in terms of, will it be the SEC or will it be the CFTC? And ultimately what I have argued for is that a new agency is needed to actually be the regulatory agency of the digital asset space, because there's just so many intricacies in terms of whether these tokens are securities or whether they are something totally different than securities, or whether they are commodities. And the truth is that they kind of have properties of both depending on the structure. But then there's also things like meme coins, which act more like collectibles. And so although there's a framework that already exists for some of these things, to me, there's enough nuance and differences, and especially when you get to talking about true DAOs like Decred and what Kyle posits he'd like to build. And I'm just talking about all this while we still install, is essentially a new agency is truly needed in order to properly regulate this industry, in my opinion. But we'll just continue to wait. As I look through this phone, I'm very curious. I think this little sensor part on the back is the new tap, which honestly I think makes a little bit more sense than where the tap was located on the old phone, because you used to have to like kind of stretch, and it was weird at first, but you kind of get used to it after a while. So it's interesting. Maybe they've just kind of moved it so that the whole process of paying and authenticating yourself is just a little bit more streamlined. So I'm really interested to see what ecosystem and special applications and dApps come as a result of the Seeker. I'm interested in what airdrops result from the Seeker. Bonk has been one of the big meme coins in the Solana ecosystem, and that was airdropped to people who purchased the Saga and maybe some other people as well. Klanosaurs are an NFT project that, again, was dropped to early Saga mobile owners. And so these are both two really big projects on the Solana ecosystem, and I'm sure there are many more that I can't think about right now that all launched and were airdropped to Saga owners. And so if you are in 2025, headed into 2026, and you're interested in Solana, I don't only recommend looking into the Seeker, which is their newest phone, but also I would very much be looking into some of the play systems, right? The video game systems like the Solana, I don't know what it's called truthfully, but there's a Solana Game Boy type of system, the Sui 0x Play or something like that. I think these are the new frontier, but I'm very excited about the Seeker. I'm excited to see sort of what emerges as a result of Web3 native applications. Okay, so that took like 2 minutes. After it updated, the first thing it asked me to do was sign into Google, so that's what I'm doing right now. Google sent a notification to my Saga, so I need to confirm on my Saga. So that's interesting. It does make signing up to the phone, I guess, kind of streamlined. I guess I am not too familiar with the Android ecosystem, but I know that with the Saga, it asks us to do the same thing. Like my Saga is linked to my Gmail account, and the Seeker has the same sort of signing in process. Next, it's going to ask you to set up your fingerprint. Okay, so I thought it was the back of the phone, but it actually turns that your fingerprint is on the side of the phone. So I'm now doing my fingerprint, and it's scanning my finger based off of the sensor button. So that's actually pretty high speed. I'm not gonna lie. That makes a lot of sense. I did always think that it was a bit unusual, having to use my index finger, but the thumb on the side is very smart. So that is new to the Seeker, and an improvement that is welcome. It's asking me all these questions. Just click I agree, I suppose. It's asking me all these questions about backing up and are your close friends nearby. So Gemini AI comes integrated with the Solana Seeker. I don't know if you guys can see that. your personal AI assistant. Okay, so the next thing it's wanted me to do is create my seed vault, and it's saying seeds are generated offline and stored in the Seeker's secure element, protected by encryption, unlocked by biometrics and a passcode, inaccessible to Android. So that's really nice. It says you can choose to back up your seed right away or do it later. I'm going to do it later, although I did have a piece of paper and pen ready to go. But I like that just for the accessibility and thinking about really, if we're going to onboard millions and millions of users, most people still don't really know how to deal with seed phrases, despite there being kind of no excuse to not know at this point, truthfully. Now, because this is not going to be my daily phone, right? Like I don't have a SIM card, so it is very bare bones. But I want you guys to see right off the bat, you can see the DApp store in the bottom right corner and the wallet app. And then most of the other things one would expect to see on an Android phone as it's integrated with Google, including Gemini there in the top left corner. So I'm going to go ahead and look on the DApp store, and as you can see, what I really like about Solana and what they're building is that it does feel like sort of the next Apple, if you will, because one thing that Apple was really like known for, and one thing that like attracted a lot of people to Apple was the App Store, and it is what sort of brought about the mobile revolution, in my opinion, because everyone wanted all the cool apps that you could do and use. And I think that it's only a matter of time before Solana has a breakout app that forces everyone to get a Solana based mobile phone, right? There are definitely a lot of new apps on here. There's Helium Mobile, which Helium is a sort of a phone plan that is, I guess, DPIN infrastructure based. There's something called Colony, which is the world's first AI game. That sounds really interesting. Perna, where money grows and flows. A whole bunch of new apps that I am unfamiliar with, but I'm going to go ahead and install some of these just because why not? But okay. Then, of course, some of the top picks are Drift, Your Network, which is a GoodPie VPN, a whole bunch of really interesting games. And one thing that I can say right away is that the App Store, or the DApp Store, has definitely gotten more user friendly. There are more dApps than ever before. I remember like when Solana Saga first came out, there was like maybe 5 dApps in total. But now you're looking on the DApp Store and there's, several dozen, like even just a quick kind of scroll. There are dApps in productivity, there's dApps in social and identity, there are AI and agent, there's lifestyle dApps. So content and streaming, privacy and security, NFTs, DPIN. There are just so many. Crypto Fantasy League, Ultimate Crypto Strategy Game. Okay, so clearly the Solana dApp ecosystem is growing. Sleepagachi, it looks like there's a lot of really fun games. So I'm excited to see what the Solana mobile system has, or Solana dApp ecosystem has in store, and really just play around, because I think if you're going to invest in Web3, you have to actually use it. I think that's the most important thing. And I think that if we're going to rid ourselves of the control that big tech conglomerates have over us, we have to be willing to spend our time and resources and money in the future and ecosystems that we want to see. That's something that Jeff Booth always says. And so I hope this video was interesting, and that if you're thinking about getting the Solana Seeker, I highly recommend it. I'll have a link in the description where you can go ahead and reserve one of these and buy a Solana Seeker. I'm not affiliated with them and not getting any sort of kickback, but just want to make it easy access for you guys. But if you guys are liking this type of content, make sure to like and subscribe to E3 Digital, where we dive into everything in the metaverse, NFT, ordinals, anything to do with crypto, you name it, we are going to be reviewing it. And also, if you want to support the channel, you can donate, and you can also use some of the links in the description to sign up for things like Coinbase and Kraken and any of the exchanges, and just use the links that I have there to support the channel. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.